All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Fatboyz Dynasty podcast, coming at you with episode 2 on the week. We wanted to try something a little different and get out some more information. So today we're going to talk about some trade candidates for both Dynasty and Redraft, really. We'll talk about, try to hit both areas with it. And we're going to talk about some projections this week and how we feel if they're going to go over, under. And then, of course, we're going to keep our famous segment. We're going to talk about one college player to keep your eye on. And we'll break down the Thursday night game just a little bit and keep that segment going. So, Bo, I'll go ahead and let you kick it off with one of your trade candidates.
Yeah, so obviously, Brant, like you kind of alluded to there, the main reason for these 2 shorter episodes every week is more to give everybody who does tune in and give us a listen better chances to finish well over your course of your season. And what better way to do that than with weekly waivers and weekly trade guys and start sits, if you will, kind of here. So for trade candidates, the first guy I want to talk about is Travis Etienne, Brant. And this is a guy that, for me, I'm trying to buy right now. Okay, I did buy him this offseason. I know you bought him this offseason as well. But this is a guy that I think deserves to be bought. And here's kind of my reasoning for this. So 3 of the last 4 weeks, he's had double-digit carries, all right? Mm-hmm. And over the course of the entire season, he's had 8 more targets than James Robinson. Now, bear in mind, James Robinson, those first couple of weeks of the season was very, very good. Okay, everybody thought, well, this is still James Robinson's backfield. Etienne's just never going to be a thing. Well, Etienne's slowly starting to become a thing. Mm-hmm. All right, and right now is your time to trade for Etienne because much in the way of like your one of your favorite wide receivers in fantasy, Brant, this Travis Etienne's got one thing slowing him down right now, and that's why he's not untradeable in my opinion. You got any guesses as to what that is?
Why he's untradeable?
No, why he's not yet untradeable. Why you can still trade for him is because of this one reason. And like I said, the hint I'm giving you is that he's very similar to one of your favorite wide receivers in fantasy who just accomplished this feat at the tail end of last year.
Well, the reason I say he's untradeable is is tradable is because James Robinson's still sitting there barking up his tree.
That's not the same thing for your favorite wide receiver. It's that Travis Etienne has yet to find the end zone.
Wow.
Much in the way of Jacoby Myers is where I thought we had a thing there.
Sir. Jacoby has found the end zone this year.
Right, which is why I said towards the end of last year he finally did that.
That's where you threw me off a little bit.
Your heavyweight brain was working in circles there. You weren't listening. So, yes, Travis Etienne, I think once he starts finding the end zone on the regular, this is going to be a guy that people are no longer going to be interested in moving him. So right now, one of the guys that I think you could ship in a trade pretty much straight up at this point to get Travis Etienne is Darrell Henderson. And I know that one's going to raise some eyebrows because it's like, well, Darrell Henderson just got the backfield. You know, Cam Akers is out for personal reasons, wants a trade, whatever. Well, this week, without Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson was only on the field for 71% of snaps. He had 12 carries, 43 yards, and thankfully he fell in the end zone to save his week. And he had another 3 targets, 2 receptions for 9 yards. But which are all formidable numbers for a running back. But the one thing that scares me is that Kyron Williams is still recovering from that offseason surgery. This is a guy that Sean McVay spoke very highly of. And I think at some point here, Darrell Henderson gets back into a 50-50 committee again with Kyron Williams when he comes out. So I think right now, Darrell Henderson's a trade-away player, and Travis Etienne is a trade-forward player. So, Brant, let me kick this question to you. If you were in let's say a redraft, and your 4-2 is your record, which one of these 2 running backs would you rather have rest of season?
Well, rest of the season, I'm going with Travis Etienne, and this is really easy for me. Actually, like you already said, we both traded for him in this offseason. But I'm looking down here at week 14, 15, 16, 17. I'm looking into the playoffs. I'm 4-2. I'm sitting with a good probably. I'm sitting there pretty decently, probably in the top 3-4 range. And let's look. Travis Etienne sees Tennessee, Dallas, the Jets, and Houston. So you're telling me in championship weeks, Travis Etienne goes against one of the worst rush defenses in the NFL. I'll take Travis Etienne. And then I go over here to Darrell Henderson and Kyron Williams. Vegas has been pretty decent against the run. Green Bay, Denver, and the Chargers. Well, I'm going to take the easier playoff schedule over Darrell Henderson. So Travis Etienne's my guy, and I was very high on him. You and me both were as he came out as a rookie, and I'm taking Travis Etienne both in redraft and in dynasty.
Yeah, I did want to say, too, that after I let you make your pick, which you caught on to it there, so I'm very happy for that. But the Jacksonville Jaguars have the easiest remaining strength of schedule for the running back position left. And, again, it's trending in that value of ETN more so than James Robinson. So I think you may have this week and maybe next week where, Travis Etienne's still a guy that's available. So if this is a guy that you're thinking about making a move for, the time's now.
Yeah. So I'm going to stick right there with the running backs. I'm going to talk about one of the running backs I have to sell. I have Ezekiel Elliott with Dak's return. I understand Zeke's been, okay. He hasn't been the eye-popping numbers. But with Dak returning, that offense is going to hopefully get back to high-powered. I would assume they're going to get back to wanting to throw a little bit more. And in that type of game situation, it favors Tony Pollard. Zeke hasn't seen more than 2 targets at all this year in any game. He's played less than 70% of snaps in all the games. And after his big week he had this week, 13 carries, 81 yards, and a touchdown, 18 fantasy points. This is the chance to really sell high on him in my mind, because I really think that when Dak comes back, that team's going to lean a little bit more on Tony Pollard, and I just don't understand how Zeke's going to keep putting those numbers up.
Okay.
I'm kind of looking. I really didn't, for some reason, didn't write this down, but I'm really looking to get maybe in dynasty. I'm probably looking to get a second or a first round draft pick for him. First is probably going to be pushing it in most dynasty leagues. But you're looking at anybody that kind of wants to trade for him in dynasty is going to be looking for probably looking for a playoff run with him. Have him as their RB3 or 4, so you might be able to get a late first for him. In redraft, you hit the nail on the head. Travis Etienne is one guy that I'd be trying to go acquire, or David Montgomery might be a guy to really look into. It's going to have to be Montgomery and something else. I'm not going to give. I don't think I'd do that trade straight up. But the Bears' run schedule is pretty decent too, coming up in the playoffs and through the rest of the year.
Okay. I think I'm on board with you as far as the trade in Zeke, and if it's whether I'm the Travis Etienne owner and somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I'll give you Zeke straight up for Etienne," I'm not touching it. And if it's the other side of it, especially in a dynasty, obviously that's not even in consideration. I'm keeping ETN. But if I'm on the Zeke side of it and somebody says, "Hey, I really want to give you ETN for Zeke," I'm gonna have to probably go to one of them places in the mall that fixes phone screens, because I'm gonna put my finger through it, hitting the accept button. That's one that's right there for me. And I know, Brant, we've been kind of famous over the course of this, 3 years of our podcasting, just kind of not being Zeke fans just as much as we've not been Lamar Jackson fans. But we're finally right on the Zeke stuff, so it's a good feeling.
Which running back do you want to own, Lamar Jackson or Ezekiel Elliott?
Lamar Jackson.
So I have to retrack a little previous statement. Just a minute ago, I went and I looked. So Chicago does have a pretty decent run schedule leading up to the playoffs, but once they hit playoffs, they see Philly and Buffalo both in the playoffs. So not good for David Montgomery. So you're definitely going to want another piece with him.
All right. So let's move on to the wide receiver position here. And for me, this one's probably going to sting your ears a little bit, Brant, so I don't know if you're going to want to put earplugs in or maybe a chicken bone or something there. But, the guy, if I'm a wide receiver, if I own this wide receiver, I'm looking to trade this guy away, and it's Christian Kirk. All right. And I know that Christian Kirk kind of started off, lighting the world on fire with Trevor Lawrence, looked to be every bit worth his huge payday that he got this offseason. But over the last 3 weeks, Christian Kirk's targets have went from 9 to 3 to 2. And in all 3 of those weeks, he played over 90% of snaps. And in those games, yes, you're right. You're holding it up. It's 9-5-2. I apologize. In those 5 weeks, he had 2 receptions, 1 reception, and 4 receptions. I've got those written down backwards. Anyway, my ADHD here is kicking in. But Christian Kirk is a guy that's the value slowly starting to decline. It's fading off a little bit. Trevor Lawrence is spreading the ball out to everybody. Evan Ingram's involved. Travis Etienne's involved. Zay Jones is involved. Marvin Jones Jr. is involved. Everybody's involved in that Jacksonville pass catching game. And we had at one point in time in PPR formats where Christian Kirk was a top 6 wide receiver. I know everybody was out trying to acquire him. But now he's slowly starting to fade into the sunset a little bit, and it's time to start. If I'm a contending team for the playoffs, I got to get rid of this dead weight. So who am I looking to trade for? Well, the guy I'm looking to trade Christian Kirk for is a little bit more of a seasoned wide receiver, if you will, and that's Adam Thielen with the Minnesota Vikings. And initially it seems kind of gross because it's like, well, that's all Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook, right? Well, Adam Thielen has only had 1 game this season under 7 targets. So he's still very, 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 very targeted by Kirk Cousins. He's every bit of the opposite 1B to Justin Jefferson. Jefferson's just putting up the better numbers. I think it's only a matter of time before Thielen's numbers start to go up pretty significantly. And if you're giving me a wide receiver that I can trade for who's getting over 7 targets almost every single week, that's definitely somebody I'm interested in when it comes time to making a playoff push. So for me, I'm saying I'd take Adam Thielen over Christian Kirk. What's your thoughts on that, Brant?
I'm taking Adam Thielen over Christian Kirk too. Minnesota's a team that has really started to air that ball out a little bit more. Like you said, 7 targets a game. Minnesota's also in contention to be winning their division. So they're going to be competing in most games. And there's so many wide receivers in Jacksonville. You really don't know who's going to receive the number 1 coverage. You slide over into Minnesota, and you know that Jefferson's seeing the number 1 coverage, and you know they're packing that box in on Dalvin Cook. So, yeah, I'm taking Thielen because, well, he's going to be, the guy's facing a number 2 corner most weeks, so that should leave him open for plenty of targets and plenty of fantasy points. I think the ceiling for Kirk is higher. I think you could possibly see more explosive games out of Kirk, but I think it's safer, which is in my playoff push. I want to be safer with that. I want to know that my guy's getting, 5 to 7 targets a game. He's hanging me at least 10 fantasy points. I'm going to take the safe play, and I'm going to take Adam Thielen on that one. Now, if I'm if I'm behind and I'm behind the curve, sitting maybe at 1-5 in a league where you can't quite get a quarterback and you need a boom play, I'm probably going to hold on to Kirk if I need a boom play because, like I said, I think his ceiling's higher. But if I'm sitting there and I'm comfortable with the rest of my team and I just want something safe, I'm taking Adam Thielen.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate too that my like I said, my ADHD and my dyslexia got the better of me. It was 9 targets. 3 targets, 5 targets for 2 receptions, 1 reception, 4 receptions. So I went back and I did fix that there. So I just wanted the record to be set straight.
So my wide receiver I have as a sell now, and the reason you're selling him now is I get it. When I say the name, it's gonna you're gonna be like, why would I do that? I got sell now on Juju Smith-Schuster. I understand he just had a very explosive game. He's in the Kansas City Chiefs offense. He's with Patrick Mahomes. High-powered. We're going to hang points. He's going to be great. That's cool. Yeah, he hung 20 fantasy points, only seeing 5 targets last week. And yeah, he caught all 5 of them for a 42-yard catch and TD. Other than that, he really has not been very productive all year. He's only seeing, he's seeing 18% of the target share on the year. And last week he saw 11 targets per route run. He hasn't hung more than 13 fantasy points at all this season. And he was seeing 8 targets, 3, 8, 8, 8. So, it was very consistent with targets. They just weren't very good targets for him. And Mahomes has really started to spread that ball out with everyone else there in Kansas City. Wow, there you go. I'm stuttering now too. Wednesday night's kicking our butt, apparently. Not used to it. Got to get back into it. I mean, you got to think about it. You got MVS coming on. He's looking decent. You got Travis Kelce, who's always going to be a stud. And you got McCole Hardman, who's really starting to be a value point or a focal point of that offense. Then you got Sky Moore starting to come in and take some snaps too. And you got that touchdown stealing boy there out of the backfield in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who always seems to get lost amongst the trees and pop out of nowhere. So, yeah, I'm selling Juju, and guys that I'm looking to acquire for him, or Rondale Moore is a guy that I really like, especially with the return of D-Hop. A lot of people are going to be freaking out, oh, D-Hop's coming back. Yeah, well, Rondale Moore's coming back into the slot where he thrived last year when he got playing time. And another guy that I know you really like, he's getting his quarterback back, so it may take a week or two to get back. I know some people have been worried about him. But I like Michael Gallup as another guy to acquire for this. I think in that offense he's going to be very, very safe. He started his snap share. He went 64 when he first came back from injury. Then it dropped down to 55 against the Rams. And then it went back up to 76. This guy, I think, is going to be very, very safe and one of Dak Prescott's favorite targets. So I ask you, would you rather hold on to Juju, or would you go out and try to acquire one or two of those guys?
Yeah, so first of all, not only does the Kansas City have all those names that you mentioned, but they're also the leaders in Vegas right now to sign OBJ. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you caught the news that broke either today or yesterday that they restructured Travis Kelce's contract to free up $3.455 million. Nobody does that in the middle of the season unless they're working towards something. So if OBJ goes there, I like Juju even less. So yeah, if I'm trying to go out and get a wide receiver with better upside that I think could be consistently better as well, I'm absolutely going after Michael Gallup. I think Rondale Moore is also a really, really interesting piece because, if you remember right, Brant, when we did an episode, closer to week one or the kickoff week of the season, I said we weren't going to really know what we had in this Arizona Cardinals offense until D-Hop came back. Obviously, I think D-Hop makes the offense better, and it's kind of proven. There was there's numbers out there that support it too. With D-Hop playing, the Arizona Cardinals offense scores something like 30 points a game. Without D-Hop playing, they average like 21 points a game. So yeah, anybody associated with that offense's value is going to go up a little bit in my mind with D-Hop coming back. So yeah, give me either Gallup or Rondale Moore over Juju Smith-Schuster at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. You got anybody else there you would like to discuss for trading?
Listen, I'm at this point, all I want to do is the over-under game that we're ready to play here.
Well, I wanted to cut into that just a little bit. I wanted to throw out our college QBs to keep an eye on real fast because I want to end this with a good fun time with that.
Talking about Thursday night football and no touchdowns, right? That's where we're going to end this with.
No, there's got to be a touchdown. D-Hop's back, baby, and you know my love for D-Hop. I wish he would have stayed in Houston because I hate cheering for anything on Arizona as a Seahawks fan. So, sure. But let's. I want to talk about our quarterbacks real quick. I got Will Levis out of the University of Kentucky. He's the number 4 ranked quarterback coming out, and unfortunately, he likes mayonnaise in his coffee. So please don't come to Seattle because I don't think the fans will take that very lightly. I got some dirty looks just trying to add a little sugar to my coffee when I was in Seattle a couple weeks ago. So I don't know how they're going to take adding mayo to your coffee. I guess if you happen to lead us to a Super Bowl, maybe they'll start to like you. But
that's what trench coats are for, and trench coats are fine. It rains every day in Seattle.
That's true. That is true. Well, Mr. Levis is 6'3", 232 pounds. He's a senior for University of Kentucky. This year he's had 1,635 yards, 13 passing touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He's been a guy that's been on everyone's radar. He's kind of, just a very safe, great game manager. He's not going to take off and run too much. He really has, in the last few weeks, he's had, 7, 8, 9 rushes. Actually, one of those 9 rushes was for negative 19 yards. So he's definitely not a guy that's going to light the world on fire for his rushing upside. But he's a very safe, great pocket presence, very good quarterback coming into the NFL.
Yeah, so my quarterback that I'm going to talk about here, I don't think drinks mayonnaise in his coffee, but I don't know. But this guy is a 6'4", 218-pound senior out of the University of Tennessee. He's a redshirt senior, nonetheless. He transferred after 3 years at Virginia Tech to the University of Tennessee, and he kind of put the world on notice this weekend, beating Bama, where he threw 30 passes, completed 21 of those for 385 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception. You put up numbers like that against Bama, people are going to start to take notice and hear this fat boy is taking notice. Mm-hmm. Over the course of his career, he's completed 522 out of 784 passes for 7,656 yards, 68 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. This is a guy that is going to continuously see his draft stock rise. As far as Tennessee goes, Hendon Hooker is going to go with him or with them. And this is a guy that, prior to the start of the season, a lot of people speculated would be a second to third round quarterback taken, probably a little bit part of due to his age. But he's really kind of showing that he's polished, he's proven, he's ready to go. And I think you're going to slowly start to see that creep up. The better Tennessee does, the better he'll go. So,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, now I think it's time for something that we were talking about and we wanted to get involved in. It's going to be a fun little segment. We're going to talk about some projections for this week. We're going to talk about some over-unders on how we feel about it. And don't forget, guys, make sure you guys tune in on Sunday morning, 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. Eastern. Don't tune in 10 p.m. 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central. For our start sits with these fat boys. We'll get to all your questions, talk some start and sits for first hour and a half leading up to kickoff. But let's get into some of these projections for this week. Now, mind you, this is half point PPR is where we're taking our projections off the Sleeper app. So I'm gonna start with the quarterback. I'm just gonna start right there. Just go straight into it. Patrick Mahomes and his projection is 25.24 points this week. I did throw out the point in there because it is a quarterback, so he gets some extra ones. And they play against the San Francisco 49ers. Do you think he goes over or under his 25 projection?
I think he goes well over. San Francisco's defense, I just got to watch firsthand this week when they played the Atlanta Falcons. And if Marcus Mariota can carve them up, which he didn't have his first incomplete pass in that game until like midway through the fourth quarter. Now, granted, he'd only thrown 13 of those passes at that point. So on his 14th, there was an incompletion, and Pat Mahomes will throw several more than that. But it really just showed how bad they're missing Nick Bosa on the outside there, how banged up that front four is. There was one point in time in that game last week where there was one guy who had been playing more than 50% of snaps for the San Francisco defensive line, got hurt, and they had 4 guys that had not played 50% of snaps, and that's projected to be the same this week. So that there shouldn't be a whole lot of a pass rush in Patrick Mahomes' face, and he's the best quarterback in the National Football League. You give him time to throw, he's gonna carve you up. So yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes has his way with that. I'm thinking this could be a quarterback 1 week for Patrick Mahomes.
I am actually going opposite here. I actually have him to go under it because I see this game going one or two ways. Either this turns into a defensive battle like we saw in Buffalo, or Kansas City gets up big and we see a lot of running. And he's only topped 25 points twice this season. Week 1 and the previous week are the only 2 times he has. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think he quite gets to 25. I think this game gets out of hand quick, and I could see him only throwing 1 or 2 touchdowns and just not quite getting there.
Okay. So my first one, I'm going to the running back position here, and it's Aaron Jones, who's against the Washington Commanders this week, projected 14.97 points and a half point PPR.
Aaron Jones playing the Commanders. You said 14 points against the Commanders. I am going to say he goes well over that. I think Green Bay gets back on track, and I think in order for them to get back on track, we saw it in week 2 with Aaron Jones. In order for that team to get back on track, Aaron Rodgers has to go to one of his trusty targets. And in week 2, when they played Chicago, now I do know it is Chicago, he scored over 30 fantasy points. I'm going to say Aaron Jones goes over his projection this week. I like him this week.
Yeah, you and I are in agreement on this one. I think both of the Green Bay Packers running backs probably get over their scheduled projections. When Aaron Rodgers is coming out talking in a press conference saying that the offense needs to be simplified because they're struggling to adapt. I know we're looking at potentially getting Sammy Watkins back in Green Bay, but that's not going to be enough. I think if you truly want to simplify a offense, the best thing to do is run the ball 30 times. Which also, bear in mind, Aaron Rodgers has a nicked up thumb. He's having a little bit of trouble getting the grip on the football. He sat out of practice today because of it, today being Wednesday, of course. So I think you're going to see a heavy dose of both A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones this week, and I think both of those guys get comfortably over their projections.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely on that. So sticking with the running back, I have Josh Jacobs, and his projection is 17 half-point PPR points going against the Houston Texans.
This one's pretty easy for me as well. I think he far exceeds this. The Houston Texans have been kind of diced pretty handily by the running back position. Josh Jacobs is a guy who is kind of rewriting the ship this year. He's on a contract year. Vegas decided not to pick up his fifth-year option, and he's kind of making them look silly for that. They've leaned on him a lot this year, and he's really answered that. And again, Houston, their defense has been Swiss cheese when it comes to running backs. So I look for Josh Jacobs to have a huge week this week. I'm thinking top 5 running back on the week.
Yeah, this one was easy for me when I wrote it down. 17 points just doesn't seem like enough for him. I'm going well over. I think he finds the end zone a couple times. We've seen the Raiders get back on track using the run over the last few weeks. He's had, last week he had 21 carries. The week prior he had 28 carries, so they're definitely starting to lean on him. I think he finds the end zone multiple times. I think you see a couple big runs out of him this week too.
Absolutely, I agree. Sticking with the running back position, I have Breece Hall versus the Denver Broncos, another running back projected at 14 points. This one's at 14.24 points. So what do you make of Breece Hall versus the Denver Broncos defense?
Well, if he can score within, before they get within the 5, I think he goes well over. No, I like Breece Hall again this week. They're starting to find the rhythm there in New York, and that's to the tune of Breece Hall seeing 18 and 20 carries. And against Denver, Denver's defense, rush defense doesn't scare me too much. Breece Hall definitely gets work out of the backfield. 14 points. I honestly think that might be just about where he's at. I think he exceeds that, but if he does, I don't think it's by very much.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna, reference what you and I said prior to the start of the season. This is the year that the New York Jets fantasy value is to the moon.
To the moon!
And to this point, we've been right on a lot of different things, whether it was the second coming of Joe Flacco the first 2 weeks of football, or Garrett Wilson's explosion. We've been right almost every week. There's been a Jet that's just like, hey, look at that. But I think this is a week that I think you actually see the Jets get humbled. They're coming high off of that really good win over the Green Bay Packers last week. The New York Jets have been playing some good football. I think this is a week that you actually see the Jets offense slowed down a little bit. I think Breece Hall is very, very close to his projection of 14 points. And I think he's going to have to find the end zone to get to it. So I'm going to say I think he goes under his projections, but it's right there. I mean, it's still enough that if you play him, you're not going to be like hanging your head disappointed that he gets like nothing. I think he's going to be right around that in between that 13 to 15 range, but I'm going to say lean towards the 13 side of it.
Okay, all right. So Denver may be out looking for a new quarterback. I think I heard Drew Lock was available from Seattle. If they'd like to come get another one from us. No. I'm gonna go right back to that Raiders and Houston game because when I remembered both running backs playing in that game. I went with Dameon Pierce, who is projected at 13 points this week. What do you like? I say he plays the Raiders. What do you think about that one?
A lot of times, Brant, in the beginning of the season, towards the end of training camps and stuff, I tend to tune out coach speak. But when you're heading into week 7 of the NFL season and you've got a head coach in the National Football League saying we got to get this guy 20 plus carries, I tend to think that's going to translate pretty healthily into fantasy points. And while I don't think the Houston Texans make this game particularly close, I think Dameon Pierce exceeds his fantasy projection. 20 carries, he's explosive enough. Which again, I know I'm kind of playing catch up here because I wasn't on the Dameon Pierce hype train. I wasn't a believer in Dameon Pierce. But any running back in the National Football League getting 20 carries is going to put up a formidable fantasy score. So I like Dameon Pierce to hit his projection this week.
Yeah, so I do too. I was looking up the stats that they give up, rushing yards for both teams, and while Houston's only given up 99 rushing yards, I then went and looked at the Raiders, who's giving up 121 rushing yards per game. So yeah, I think Pierce goes pretty well over it. I think he finds the end zone once, maybe twice, but with 20 carries and finding the end zone, I think Dameon Pierce is a good solid bet to go over that 13.
Okay. Moving on to the wide receiver position here, my first one is going to be Mike Evans versus the Carolina Panthers, coming in projected at 14.58 points on a half-point PPR. What say you on Mike Evans?
So I want to say I hope and pray he does because he's one of my wideouts in fantasy. But with Chris Godwin coming back and fully healthy and everything, and the way that I don't know how to say this. I haven't had to say it in many, many years. The way Tom Brady's playing, 14 points might be a little hard for him to get against Carolina Panthers. Their defense has been, pretty decent. And I don't know if Brady can come out like we talk about Aaron Rodgers, hitting that second gear after getting beat up by the Jets. I don't know if Brady's going to be able to do it. Father Time may have slowly creeped in and grabbed one of his shoulders. So yeah, I don't know if he makes it quite to 14.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's actually going to be under as well. Whether Tom Brady looks good or not, there's still so much on that team. You've got, Russell Gage, you've got Cade Otton, you've got Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, Rashad White. There's just a plethora of names there. And I just think, you're going to have your explosions with Mike Evans, but you're also going to have your duds, and not necessarily because of Carolina's defense, but I think Carolina's offense is bad enough that Tom Brady's not going to have to chase a whole lot of points, and this may be a Leonard Fournette game. So I think I shy away from Mike Evans hitting 14 as well.
Okay. So with my first wide receiver, I have your boy there in Atlanta and Drake London and his 11-point projection. Who are they going against? I know you have that right in front of you. Hang on, give me just a second. Apparently I lost that. You guys are going against
the Cincinnati Bengals.
Thank you. I didn't write it down, so I completely drew a brain fart on it.
Yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah, I think Drake London hits his projection this week. Cincinnati's offense is high-powered and high-scoring enough that, Atlanta's going to have to throw the ball more than 15, 16 times this week. And Drake London is still a guy who's in the top 3, maybe top 4. He may have fell to the top 4 this week in target share. And his target share is still 30%. Now, granted, 30% of, 16 passes isn't very many. But if Marcus Mariota has to throw the ball 25 plus times this week because let's be honest, if Joe Burrow's clicking on all cylinders and Casey Hayward's out to the IR, one of our starting cornerbacks, and AJ Terrell's banged up, this may be a game where you have to see Atlanta put a lot of points on the board or have to try to put a lot of points on the board. And I think if that's going to happen, it's going to have to come through the way of Kyle Pitts and Drake London. So I like Drake London to go over 11 this week.
Yeah, I do too. You hit everything that I had written down. I expect you guys to have to air it out in order to keep up with Cincy. Burrow came out and said they feel like they found their identity on offense. And so I expect them to run, that shotgun formation and air that ball out a lot more. and I think you guys definitely have to air it out to keep up.
Completely agree. My next one at the wide receiver position is DJ Moore in that same game as Mike Evans versus Tampa Bay's defense, projected at 8.89 points. I know DJ Moore's been pretty lackluster at this point. Sam Darnold did just come off IR, but they've already come out and said that it's going to be PJ Walker again this week. So what do you make of DJ Moore and his very, very low projection of 8.89?
Well, due to the fact he burnt me last week, and I really thought it was going to be a coming out party for DJ Moore, I'm going to say under. I am not trusting DJ Moore. I am not trusting that Carolina quarterback. I'm taking the under, especially against, that defense that Tampa Bay does have. I expect them to get after the quarterback, and I would probably say you see P.J. Walker scramble quite a bit, if not leave banged up. But, I'm taking the under in that. I do not trust DJ Moore anymore. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt for most this year, and I just can't.
So for me, I actually think he gets there. Last week Robbie Anderson was still in town, and everybody's talked about what Robbie Anderson means to the Arizona Cardinals, but nobody's talked about what him leaving means for Carolina. I do think that you'll see DJ Moore's target share go up a smidge, probably, maybe to the tune of one or two more targets a game. But even in half-point PPR, all he has to do is catch 4 points or 4 passes, and have some yards to go with that. And he's going to be right there at this 8. So I like DJ Moore to hit 8. If it was any higher, if you were talking 10, 11 points projected, I might be a little more nervous about that. But I think DJ Moore is capable of going over 8 points fantasy.
Okay, so with my last one that I have, I went out and I'm going to throw you a little curveball. I had a tight end, and then I realized I talked about this same game about 3-4 times, so I was like, I'm going away from this. So I'm going to throw you a little curveball. We're going to talk about the Seattle wide receivers. Is it a DK Metcalf week, or is it a Tyler Lockett week going against the Los Angeles Chargers?
Well, since you threw me a curveball, and in my notes I had the next one I was going to ask about was DK Metcalf, I guess I'll say that I assume that I think this is going to be a Tyler Lockett week. DK Metcalf's projected at 13.49 points. I expect him to see more of Derwin James on his side of the field, and probably a matchup with J.C. Jackson. So I think it's going to be a Tyler Lockett game. Gino's really kind of shown that he kind of likes Tyler a lot this last couple of weeks. And not saying that I think DK is going to have a horrendous game. I just don't think DK hits his projection. And if DK doesn't, that probably means Tyler Lockett does.
Yeah, so Tyler Lockett's projection for this week, this is why I threw this curveball. His projection this week is 13.22. And I think it's a DK or a Tyler Lockett week too. I think both of them get 9 to 10 points, but or at least 10 points. But yeah, I think Lockett finds the end zone and moves the ball a little more.
Okay, fair enough. So I guess I don't have another one to do for you since we just did there. But so let's move right on here to a Thursday night game that I'm actually reasonably excited to watch and tune in for. Which is the New Orleans Saints traveling to Arizona. And, you've already on the New Orleans side of the ball, you've already had some big names ruled out. No Michael Thomas again this week, no Jarvis Landry. And the biggest one for me is that Marshawn Lattimore is going to be out this week. So it makes me even more excited to see the fresh, if you will, DeAndre Hopkins coming in, coming off of his suspension. It's going to be really interesting to see how ready he is. The rumors are that he's been training in a park since he hasn't been able to train with his team. So it'll be really interesting to see if he can get those three solid days in a practice and do enough to be ready for a live NFL game. But D-Hop's, it's D-Hop. I know he's not getting any younger, but I expect him to be pretty good the rest of this season. And I think he gets his legs right underneath him and right out the gate with no Marshawn Lattimore there in New Orleans.
Yeah, absolutely. That was going to be my question. Do you start D-Hop right out of the gate? And in my mind, I think, like you just said, I think you have to. You held on to him this long. You absolutely have to start him. As for the,
there's a world that exists, Brant. Not to cut you off there, but there's a world that exists that if you're a 6-0, 5-1, 4-2 team, even you might have the luxury of holding off a week. And seeing what you got in D-Hop. But if you're one of those teams that's scratching and clawing and fighting for every one of your wins, trying to get yourself from the wrong side of the standings to the right side, I think you almost have to play them. You don't really have that luxury to sit and wait. So even with Marshawn Lattimore out, if I'm one of those teams that's at the top 3 or 4 spots in my league, I might wait on it and see what happens. Because if he only comes out and plays 30% of snaps, you're probably going to be disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other question is, so James Conner's a game time decision, and so if he doesn't go, do you fire up Benjamin again, or do you just bench both of them and just only start Hopkins and Murray this weekend or this Thursday?
Yeah, I think the pass catchers for Arizona should be fine this week because of the banged up secondary there in New Orleans, but they do have a very good run defense still. So no, I probably don't start either. Well, Benjamin for sure. If I have James Conner, I might be more apt to play him with D-Hop coming back, just because I think there'll be more scoring chances for James Conner. But no, I probably lean away from Benjamin just because of how good the New Orleans Saints front seven is.
Okay. And then on the other side of the ball, I think you're starting Alvin Kamara, and that's probably the only one I'm comfortable with.
Chris Olave, as long as he plays, I know he was in that concussion protocol. I believe he cleared, because the only 2 names I saw that were out for sure on the wide receiver wise was Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas. I may have overlooked Chris Olave, but if he does suit up and play, I think you play Chris Olave.
Chris Olave did clear. Yesterday he did, so he should have logged a semi-walkthrough practice when he cleared it. So, yeah, I guess he did clear. I thought I read his name. So, yes, Olave and Kamara are about the only 2 that I'm comfortable with. So I really think that does it for the Thursday night game. We're excited to talk to you guys on Sunday morning for some coffee and some starts and sits. Join us. If you got any questions, don't hesitate to hit us up on Facebook, or especially during that start and sit. We love to talk with you guys.
Yeah, we'll both be more lively this week since neither one of us have any outlandish plans on Saturday this week like we both did last week. So I think you'll see both of us be a lot more lively this week. Obviously we're going to do our best to have you going. Make sure you're there when we kick off at 9 a.m. We're going to have some guys that we think are must plays for the week, some guys that we think are really going to do really well this week. And then as soon as we get through with that, we'll be ready to start jumping on and helping you guys get your lineup set.
Absolutely. Love talking to you guys on Sunday morning. And as always, stay hungry.
And stay fat, my friends.